So, welcome back. We are continuing the discussion around the book Rest is Resistance, a Manifesto by Tricia Hersey, where we have been connecting this idea of a lack of rest or ideas around rest to sleep disturbance, wellness issue, agitation, anger, interpersonal relationship issues, but mostly how we value ourselves and what we think is important in terms of what we give to the world. Last night, I had the privilege of presenting to my board of directors what we accomplished at Project Lift for the year of 22, how many people served, what our impact was, and so thankful for what we're able to do. But when I finished presenting that information, my board member said, okay, so what are you doing about you? How are you taking care of yourself? You need to prioritize self-care because this is great, but you can't keep going at this pace. And I really appreciated that they cared about what was happening with me internally, personally, on a human level, not just how things were going as CEO who is operating this business. So to follow up with what we covered last week, we really have been focusing on creating safe spaces and creating opportunities to rest that may not necessarily be sleep, but might have that same impact. So one of the things that we're going to pick up on is Tricia Hersey says, dreaming creates energy. It allows me to connect with my deepest ideas and offers space to just be and to become free from the demands of a fast-moving, non-stop culture is so important. And so when I thought about this idea of safe spaces, and I talk to my clients about this all the time, safety isn't just your environment. Obviously, we want to be safe where we live, where we work, where we sleep. But safety is also mental safety. So how do we think about ourselves? How do we process information? How do we provide feedback to ourselves or incorporate feedback that we hear from others? Emotional safety. Are we free to share our feelings openly without being gaslighted or dismissed or patronized or considered weak for doing so? What is physical safety? So in our bodies, how do we feel? Do we feel safe to make decisions? Are we engaged in primary care to address any potential medical issues? Do we feel safe when we go places? I do a training on intersectionality, and I always talk about physical space and environmental safety. When a person walks into your office and they have to squeeze into a chair because we haven't thought far enough that everybody's body is different and that we should be creating safety even in the furniture that we're selecting, even in the organization of the environment that we're providing to people. Social safety. Are you safe amongst your friends, or do you feel like you get pulled? Are you safe within your family? Does your family create hostility within you, or a feeling of that you're not good enough, that you're not doing what they would like you to do? Do you make decisions seeking the validation and approval of others that you know internally doesn't sit well with you? And finally, are you spiritually safe? What is your practice? So whatever your practice might be, that's not for us to dissect and interpret, but do you have a spiritual practice that creates safety and aligns all your values and your beliefs and the decisions that you are making? Tricia goes on to talk about, and I have, all these tabs everywhere, so I'm not, obviously I would read the whole book to you, but I'm not going to do that. But she talks about how daydreaming and creating those safe spaces are essential because it's an antidote to hidden rage. And I find a lot of my clients suffer from hidden rage. Sometimes I do. Road rage is a great example of hidden rage. Like, why are you so upset somebody isn't going as fast as you want them to go? Hidden rage can look like yelling at your child for doing child things. I use this example often when I teach about parenting. And I said, you give a toddler who has limited motor skills, like they're really trying to develop an understanding of how their hands work to hold things while they're walking. And so you give them a cup of juice and they are walking through the house and they spill it on a rug that you spent whatever you spent on it. And instead of just saying, okay, this is what could happen, you yell at that child for doing a very childlike behavior. That's a form of hidden rage. Impatience and negative self-talk are also forms of hidden rage. And so how do you engage with yourself to address or even recognize that you have hidden rage. And again, this isn't about calling you out or making you feel bad about who you are or what you've done. This is about recognizing patterns of behavior that can have very negative impacts on your relationships, on your self-worth, on the goals that you have set for the world, and overall your wellness. So she mentions one of my favorite authors in this book. She talks about the importance of reading Love as the Practice of Freedom by Bell Hooks. Now, if you look through our old Instagram post last year in February, March, I did a series on love. And whenever anyone asks me, what do Black men need most, I always say healthy love. Healthy love, not just love, because sometimes people are offering you love and good Lord, take it back, but healthy love that is supportive, that offers constructive criticism and feedback, because that's essential too, that is accountable, that has limits, that has expectations, that isn't transactional, but is reciprocal and engaging. And so I had to print out the text, Love as the Practice of Freedom by Bell Hooks, and we're going to continue to talk about this next week. But one of the things I want you to ponder as we prepare for next week is, Bell Hooks writes, without an ethic of love shaping the direction of our political vision and our radical aspirations, we are often seduced in one way or the other into the continued allegiance to systems of domination. And so I know some of you are thinking, but no, I'm anti-oppressive and all these things. Question yourself. When do you allow your power and privilege to overshadow another person, to make someone else feel small, to bolster your ego or your sense of self and identity? And she says that we have to have the ability to acknowledge our blind spots. Two things can exist at the same time. You can believe in anti-oppression, you can be a freedom fighter, you can truly be invested in diversity, equity, and inclusion to the pursuit of social justice. And you can also abuse your power and privilege when it suits you. So I want you to think about, when have you maybe misused your power and privilege because you were seeking safety in an environment where you didn't feel safe? And so you created that safety through your power and your privilege. Think about it. When has that happened? And then what can you do, or what do you need in order to center your actions and your identity and your worth around love? So hopefully you come back next week. Love on yourself this week. Think about what love is to you, what you really need, what you want to give to others, and consider, what are your blind spots? Have a wonderful week.